Today, I'm going to show you how to update your GLPI using the Docker Compose. Dreading your next GLPI update? I know sometimes to update a core software on the environment, it's like defusing a bomb. But what if I told you that it would take less than 3 or 4 minutes to do that using GLPI and Docker? Today, I'm going to show you how to update your GLPI using the Docker Compose. And if you have already used our installation process of GLPI on Docker, you are already one step ahead since you are not losing any data. Here is a quick refresher why. Docker separates your application from your data. Think of GLPI as the engine of a car and your database and files as the chassis. When we update GLPI, we don't touch the chassis. We are just changing the engine of this car. When the container gets replaced, the new one just plugs back into your data. So if we look into our documentation, here we have 2 volumes that were declared on this Docker file. And if we look into the volumes of every container in GLPI, we are mapping out the GLPI data, which is the first volume we have here, to the var GLPI of our container. And for the database data, DB data, to the var lib MySQL path inside our container. So everything that is inserted in this folder and in this folder inside the container will be on these volumes. And since we are using named volumes, all of them are going to be managed by Docker. So if we want to make sure we know where are our files, we can navigate through var lib docker volumes, and inside volumes we can find the project GLPI and hit tab so we can see the 2 volumes that we have already declared here. Inside each one of them we are going to have the database and also all the files, marketplace and configuration files coming from our containers. So if I go to GLPI data, we may see the config files, the log files, the marketplace for plugins. So everything is in here, which means that every time we change our image here, we are not changing anything on our volumes. As you can see here, I have a GLPI instance on the version 11.00 and we are updating it to the version 11.06. which is the current latest version of GLPI. The only thing we need to make sure is to update our Docker Compose to the latest tag of our image of GLPI. So let's take a look on the tag that I want to use. On the Docker Hub, I can see all the tags available for GLPI. In this example, I will use the latest version of GLPI. So I'll just copy it in here and then I'll come back to my server to change the Docker Compose. Inside my docker-compose.yml file, I can see that the current tag that was used to install this Docker image was the 11.00. So I'll change it to the latest version. I could also add here the version that I want to use. Let's say I want to use the 11.04 in this example. So I could just type 11.04, but I want the last version, which is the 11.06. In this case, since we are just updating the GLPI container, we are just changing this tag. After we saved our Docker Compose YAML file, we are going to pull the new image, taking into account the tags that we have changed on our file. So Docker Compose pull, then the Docker is rebuilding the image that is locally created, and after I pull the image, I will run a Docker Compose up to update the current container that is still running. Look, if I come here, I still have GLPI 11.00 because I've just rebuilt the image. I didn't change anything on the container. Now I'll come back there and I'll type docker compose up -d. So GLPI will see that, look, there's a different tag here. So I need to recreate this container. Since our .env file doesn't use these variables that says GLPI skip auto update or GLPI skip auto install, GLPI will already do all the process to update the database and all the files on your new container. So you don't need to run additional scripts on your instance. Just make sure to make your Docker Compose look like one of ours in our documentation, and Docker and GLPI will understand what to do when you type docker compose up -d. And look, we haven't changed anything since here are my changes. For example, update to GLPI 11.06. I can just type now a solution, so GLPI updated to 11.06 on our Docker node. Don't forget that if you are a GLPI Network Cloud client, you already have the GLPI instance on your latest version. But if you use the GLPI on Docker, in less than 4 minutes, you have it already updated with the latest fixes and also more secure. See you around!